I'm sure for most of us, we know each other. But probably for those listening, even though they've heard about me, they may still want to know who is Osei Amoah. I'll start by saying that I'm married. I have 3 children. And indeed, I'm now a grandfather. I'm married to my senior at the bar, Mrs. Amoah, 1993. Yes. I went to various, yes, Mr. Speaker, if you want me to explain it, she finished in 93, I finished in 95.
I was going to suggest that that may be considered for misconduct, but that will be at another forum.
Of course, I would have that here, but circumstances. Yes, born in Abri, so my hometown is still Abri. After attending various basic elementary schools, I ended up as a Abri Boys Presbyterian School for 2 years, after which I went to Prempeh College for 7 years. So I did my O-level, A-level at Prempeh College, where I was the house prefect for Gagsburg House. Then from Prempeh College, I went to University of Ghana, Legon. First degree, political science, 81 to 85. 4 years because for 1 year we stayed at home. 1983 Aluta, we stayed at home for 1 whole year. So we had to finish in 85 instead of 84. I did my national service at Boku Secondary School for 1 year and Laboni Secondary School for the 2nd year. Agaga is looking at me. Indeed, I taught at Boku Secondary School, 6th form government for 1 whole year. It was quite peaceful at that time, even though we still had military men stationed there. And then Laboni, 2nd year national service. After that, I was recruited to the then Internal Revenue Service. I became a tax inspector for almost 10 years. So my first major profession was indeed a tax inspector. And by 91, I had entered the law school and then was called to the bar in 1995. So I stayed at the Internal Revenue Service until the MPP came to power. I was a special assistant at the Office of the President, specifically of the Vice President, the late Vice President, His Excellency Alhaji Aliu Mahama. Then for 4 years I was at the presidency. I was made Deputy Minister at the Ministry of, the then Ministry of Education and Sports, which later on became Education, Science and Sports for 4 years. I then stood for elections on the ticket of New Patriotic Party for the then Abri Nsaum constituency. So I became a member of parliament for Abri Nsaum for 1 term. The constituency was divided. It became a Kwapem South. I handed over to Honorable Chief Whip Anodompre. And then I went to Kwapem South, headquarters Abri, capital Abri. And I've been the member of parliament for Kwapem South for 3 terms now. In between, I've served on various committees. I became ranking member for government assurance when I entered parliament. Later on, I became chairman of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee. And then, from 2017, I was made a deputy minister at the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. And then 2021, I was still made a deputy minister. This time, local government, decentralization and rural development. So that's where I've been since then. I've served on various committees in Parliament, that's indicated. And then for other things, leadership and all those things. I've stated them. I also worked at Council, or was a member of the Council and Co. Nimahu Chambers. So I left in 2001. So, Mr. Speaker, I hope I haven't left anything out. This is Osei Amoah.
Very well. If you left anything out, your friends will fish it out.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, Honorable Agaga.
My senior Osei Amoah, Honorable Deputy Minister for Local Government. You have been nominated to serve as Minister of State at the Ministry of Local Government. Now, I just want to find out from you, Honorable Osei Amoah, what would be your role if you get the nod of this House to serve in the capacity in which you have been nominated, distinct from your current role as the Deputy Minister for Local Government?
Thank you so much. I assume that I may be giving him bigger responsibility, more duties. And of course, even though, as at now, I'm regarded as first Deputy Minister, as a Minister of State, my boss is here. I'm sure if you're kind enough to give me the nod, we'll sit down and agree on what else I can do besides what I've been doing now.
Now, will this responsibility that has been bestowed on you, I mean, that is if you're given the nod, also result in an increase in your emoluments, salaries, allowances, stipends, distinct from your current role as the Deputy Minister?
Well, I'm not too sure. Of course, once my role has changed or once I've been upgraded, the assumption is that probably you may be entitled to something more than what you are used to, but it's almost negligible. The most important thing is you have your upgraded, you have the title, you have the responsibility, and you're required to work to that responsibility.
Honorable Amoah, what is your, and that is my last question, your reaction to the teeming masses of our country, civil society organizations, who contend that in a period of austerity, government should not be adding on to the payroll for public servants. Now you admit that it is likely that there would be some increase so far as your earnings may be concerned if you are given the nod, distinct from what you currently earn as Deputy Minister. You don't think that we would be adding on and compounding the precarious situation we all find ourselves in due to the near economic collapse that we are saddled with?
Well, in the first place, probably you did not get me well. I didn't say that I will earn higher than what I earn. I never said that. Number two, for most of us in Parliament, we literally take our salaries from Parliament. And getting a higher position doesn't mean that your status would have changed as far as salary or emoluments are concerned. And then this issue of era of austerity. Indeed, if you check the records, some ministries have been scrapped. Special Development Initiative, regional reorganization development has been merged with local government decentralization, rural development. Zongo development has been scrapped. Monitoring and evaluation has gone. Probably about 6 ministries. And then aviation, 7. And then the downsizing from about 126 or so to 85. So it's not that the president is not doing anything about it. And like the way we put it, we sweeping, sometimes the statements become a bit sweeping. And in any case, beyond that, the edit has gone out, cut down everything for appointees, including MMDCs, who keep complaining anyway that they wish they were exempted because of the level that they are still pegged since 2017. So it's not that the president is not aware of the austerity or nothing has not been done. Some may wish to do it in a different way or different style. It's not that we used to have it so rosy that we could have, let's say, 6 ministers of state and the famous 3 wise men. But as the Constitution says, the president should appoint persons to help manage the state. And if at any point in time the president feels that this is the number he can use to manage or run the state, sometimes we have to give him the benefit of the doubt, especially when we see that efforts have been made to cut down, and who knows, he may even still cut down. And I don't think it should really be a major issue every time. Sometimes you get the impression that some people wish we even had only 5 ministries, and that all our problems in Ghana will be solved. But so we have never been in the shoes of a president. And indeed, as I said, a lot has been done, and a lot may still be done. That's my response, Honorable Member.
All right, very well. All right, okay, yes, Honorable Ayaga.
Thank you very much, my honorable colleague, Honorable Obi Amoah. You are the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, I suppose. And your ministry is overseeing the various district assemblies and the regional coordinating councils. Can you tell me what is so lacking in terms of the capacity of both the regional coordinating councils and the district and metropolitan assemblies to warrant the creation of almost parallel development authorities across the country? And I'm talking about the Savannah, the Western Corridor, the Zonal, and Central, and all these different corridors that have been created as parallel development authorities. Can you tell me what is so lacking in the capacity of regional coordinating councils, district, municipal, and metropolitan assemblies, and all the agencies under them to run development programs that will warrant the creation of these parallel development execution or implementing structures?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My good friend, Ariga. Well, you were talking about Western. There's no question authority or corridor. We have the coastal belt, we have the middle belt, and the northern. And you're saying that you don't understand why such development authorities should be created when we have Ministry of Local Government. It depends on the priorities of the president, the focus of what these development authorities should do, and why the president would think that it should be separate from the ministry. We are not lacking, as you want to put it. It's not about lacking anything. It's about the president's focus and priorities. Indeed, if you remember, there was a whole special development initiative ministry because the president felt at that time that he could fast track in that state development. So that's how I'll put it. They are playing their role. They're playing the role very well. If you go to the districts, a lot must be achieved. Because we are also in local government, we probably see more than maybe the average person will see. But the development authorities are doing very well. And it's not Nana Akufo-Addo's government that even created development authorities. We had SADA, we had other development authorities before we even came in, and it's been reconfigured. And now, if we have these three, I think they are playing their role until and when the president thinks that we can move on without them.
I've learned my lessons, not asking follow-up questions. For chairman says that I've exhausted my 3 opportunities. So, not that I'm satisfied, but I'll leave that hanging. The second question is a major governance question. And you've been a colleague here for decades, more than a decade, and we've discussed these issues over and over again. The public cry is that the size of government is big, and it is consuming so much of public expenditure. You look at the office of the president, and there are offices like Youth Ambassador for Diaspora Affairs. There are offices like Overseer of the National Cathedral. There are offices like Church Relations Manager, even though we have a ministry for chieftaincy and religious affairs. And there are offices like Diaspora Church Mobilization Officer. Diaspora Church Mobilization Officer. Then we have Focal Person, La Francophonie, even though we have a Ministry of Foreign Affairs with embassies in all the Francophone countries where we have missions. We have Director of Special Projects, Manager of Operations and Programs, Technical Communications Assistant, Technical Advisor, Zongo Development Authority. We have a Zongo Development Authority. We have all these offices, over 300, political appointees in the office of the president, the district assemblies, the ministries, then these parallel development authorities. Do you think there's any sympathy for the argument of the public that the size of government is big and should be reduced?
Well, thank you, Lord Chairman. The government is the biggest employer. So if government is employing, I don't think we should even lament about it. People are being employed. People have jobs to do. We should also distinguish between those who are public servants and those who are political appointees. We should also factor in the issue that some ministries were collapsed, but persons have been put there, skeleton, not a whole ministry, just to see off some of these things. If you go to the presidency and you have somebody in charge of special development initiatives, it's because that program is still running. And if projects have been completed, they have to see to the inspection and handing over. They are running the thing, and they are not as many as a whole ministry when it was a ministry. So some of these things we may have to probably interrogate it in a better way, because it's easy to just list and then say that because we have this list, government is too large. Government is really large because public servants are in government. And if you heard the finance minister, since MBP came into office, we've been recruiting, giving financial clearance every time. Local government service, we've employed so many people to the assemblies, to other places, and all of us, our districts would have come across such situations. So if it's only about the size of employees, they are not all political appointees. Some are public servants who, all things being equal, work till they are 60 years, so retirement, even if we, the political appointees, will fade off. So let's have a certain kind of discourse that will bring out the issues. And sometimes it's not too good to compare. Otherwise, people will say that there's a phrase that we use. I've stopped using it, so I don't even remember. But the reality is that if you compare previous governments and appointments, you may find some semblance. But what is the point in sometimes saying that you employed 800? So if I've employed 600, don't complain. Let's interrogate it in an academic, factual way and see. Obviously, we can say that still some may be seen as a bit too much, but I'm saying that they all have a role to play and a purpose. And if you're not careful, we throw it to the public, and then the public, some who may not interrogate it, get incited that if this is the kind of people we've employed, then I would not even pay tax, which is a mandate, which is a legal thing to do. That's what I would say. Yeah, but you've listed some. I have my list here, but I don't think that we should engage in this kind of situation where I also list what previous governments have done. I'm saying that let's interrogate it and then we'll make progress.
Well, I mean, if it aids your argument, you should list it anyway. But I guess this is my last chance. Chairman, you should be generous, you know. You should give me one more. Okay, Chairman. Let's now zero in on decentralization, where you have been for, I guess, past 5 years. It was 6 years as a deputy minister. In some places, some parts of the world, let's take even China, the model of economic development of China, you find out that the Chinese development model has been anchored on strong economic development at the local level. So certain parts of China, certain local government authorities in China have taken on the development of certain commodities. You know, so the local authorities are the centers of economic development. We haven't seen that where our local government authorities are also economic development units. So what do you think has accounted for this failure of our local government authorities to become economic development units, so that when you aggregate it nationally, we can have better economic development?
Well, thank you, Honorable Chairman. If you look at our Constitution and the Local Governance Act, it spells out that the districts should be centers of local economic development. It's in the Local Governance Act. And indeed, in the ministry, a policy on local economic development has been developed. My minister is very passionate about local economic development. And for every meeting that we have of the chief executives of the assemblies, this is one major issue which comes up. Indeed, as we speak, the Institute of Local Government Studies has a whole document on the local economic development of each district, sector by sector, those who are developing agric, tourism, business models, etc. So it's not that nothing is not being done at all. My minister sees that there's still a lot that can be done. That's how the focus is beginning to even get there. That you cannot say you're running a district when you're neglecting local economic development. We can fast track it. We have to champion it, because that's the only way that you can say that you're creating jobs, creating competition, allowing the development of industries and all those things. Some are bigger, some are small. We should be able to encourage those who are small to see that as the way out, and also let the big ones get bigger. But it's not that nothing is not being done. A lot is being done, and as I said, I think I even had the document here. But just to throw light on the fact that our Constitution and our Local Governance Act specifies that, and it's part of our mandate. We have a policy on that. We are strengthening the policy, and then it's a focus that the minister is very passionate about.
Yes, Honorable, you are going to ask your incoming Minister State a question. Okay.
Honorable Osei Amoah, congratulations on your nominations. Honorable, we are aware that, or rather, it's public knowledge that you assisted your minister in the local government ministry to add 6 more regions to the hitherto 10 regions in this country. With the addition of the 6 new regions, can you tell us whether they have regional offices? Indeed, they have all the logistics they need in order to work?
Thank you so much. I don't know whether you just saw Honorable Deputy Minister for Finance, I've been here, so we started talking about money. Well, we used to have the Ministry of Regional Reorganization and Development. I was not part of the ministry. It was Honorable Martin J. Mensah, who was deputy to Honorable Dambuchi. So for the second term, that ministry has been absorbed into the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development. We could see that a lot has been done. The statistics show that, indeed, for the 6 regions, they've become very fortunate. Fortunate in the sense that the kind of drive that the minister led in getting these regions created, which indeed is phenomenal, it's history. And probably we are not saying enough that we decided to add 6 regions to the original 10 to deepen democracy, to fast-track development, and to bring governance to the doorstep of the people. So much has gone into it. As at the last count, if I'm right, for about 50 projects which had been earmarked, about 33 of them had been completed, the rest at various stages. And if you go to a place like Western North, the RCC office is more than Jubilee House. So they call it, this is Jubilee House. Minister is here. But for regional posts, as for regional commanders position, regional health, anything that the regions should have, some have gone very far. And we'll say that if we continue this way, everything will be justified in creating these regions. For instance, you take the big place, the former Northern region, which has been made into 3 regions. A lot it's being done because of this kind of situation. And I think if we continue to have the resources, a lot more can be done.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Amoah, in carrying out their functions as expected of them under the Local Governance Act 936, the MMDCs are clothed with that power. And I quote, it says they have legislative, deliberative, and executive powers. There's a portion also that gives them the power, without recourse to a court of competent jurisdiction, to remove or otherwise demolish structures that are sited in an unauthorized area. When giving the nod, taking cognizance of the current situation we find ourselves where people have encroached on almost all government lands that were acquired through an executive instrument, how would you assist your minister when giving the nod as the Minister of State to empower, as it were, the MMDCs to perform their duties without fear or favor? Once again, clothed by at 936.
Thank you so much. For the MMDCs, the first thing that we've been trying to do with the minister spearheading is for them to know the law. This is what the law says you can do. These are your powers under the law. If you're not able to execute your mandate, that means you're not doing your job well. We have district planning authorities across the country. Every district is supposed to have district planning authority. And they have so much power as far as our planning is concerned. And for the fact that even the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority has now been brought under our ministry, shows the kind of focus that the president has. And for some of the chief executives, some of them sometimes don't show so much courage in executing their mandate. As you said, if you look at the law, when it comes to unauthorized siting of structures, the law mandates chief executives to give notice, to ask the offenders to abate, to even ask for modification, and eventually serve notice and then go ahead, if possible, to demolish. But even for public places, public spaces, you don't even need to go through all this. For public spaces, you just go ahead and demolish because that structure is not required to be at that place in the first place. You may be charitable to give notice, but the ultimate is that this is not your land. You cannot site a structure here. The structure should go down. And if people are well educated, if people are warned, now these are the consequences. Some of these things should not happen. I also always say, across everywhere, especially in this capital, that if you're a chief executive and you really want to make your work easy, you don't look at a place, see people first putting concrete blocks and then ending up with container before you want to go and demolish anything. You should stop them when they start. It makes your work easier. But unfortunately, everywhere you pass, you see that structures have been put up before you see all kinds of notices and then stop work, produce permit, and then even though if you have to demolish it, you can surcharge those who put up those structures. I think we may not need to go that far. But the most important thing, educate, enforce, and then ensure that the right thing is done. And for MMDCs, Honorable Damoche has warned them, if you don't deliver, these are the things that will let you leave for others to come and do the work. Because that's your mandate. Chief Executive, as you said, so much power, your functions are spelled out, and a critical thing is that the district planning authority would have to be made to work. To the extent that Minister has even said that the situation where people take money for permit before they even carry out any exercise is unlawful and wrong. The person comes, you haven't even assessed what the person is coming to do. You ask the person to pay, and then you get compromised to the extent that you don't see how to return the money to him. So you allow him to put up that structure, which after assessment you know that that should be the right thing. So I'm sure they are all listening to us, and this is a critical thing that the minister has been hammering, and that's what we want to continue to do.
So my final question, somebody sent me a message this morning, though I know the answer very well, but for the consumption of the public, if I may. The Honorable Minister, as a veteran in politics and a senior party person, so are you. Both of you were appointed during President Kufuor's time. Coincidentally, you have met in the same ministry. You used to be a deputy. When given the nod, you become a minister of state working with him. Can you assure this House that there will be a healthy working relationship between the two of you? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. As you said, I've grown in this party, and I've been a lucky person because I've worked with ministers. I've never had any problem with any minister. Honorable Osafo Mafo, Professor Fobi, my good friend Papa Uso Ankuma. I mean, and then I was sent to the ministry, Haji Alima Mahama. We're very close, and now Minister Damboche. We've known ourselves for far too long. We know ourselves, we know our temperaments, we know everything about ourselves, and how to gel. Some people are even scared that these two minds at that place may really do a lot. That's what it is. He's a strategist, and I would say that I'm fortunate to be working with him. And so far, he's so very good. Nothing will change. He's the boss, and I'm the second boss.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Sweeney first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, I will start from a discussion we had the last time you appeared before this committee. It had to do with a company called Ghana First Company Limited, and how that company, together with your ministry and the Ministry for Water Resources and Sanitation, got accepted by the municipal assemblies because of a comfort letter that you gave them, and engage contractors to construct a number of public places of convenience or public toilets. Because it's in the morning, I was trying to use a good euphemism, but yeah. So you promised the last time, even though you were a bit uncomfortable with that reference to the letter that you gave the company, but you promised that you were going to look into how these facilities that had started will be put to good use. I have come across a report that says that the Attorney General has actually directed the CID to discontinue any criminal charges against the company. The point, however, remains that these facilities started across the country are still unfinished at various levels of completion. The contractors unpaid, and the assemblies unable to decide or to complete, unable to complete these structures. What have you done about this matter since you appeared before this committee and got its approval to be a deputy minister again?
Well, thank you, Honorable Chairman. I remember this issue was raised. I explained the circumstances under which we asked the assemblies to listen to the company and to follow all the procedure regarding any PPP arrangement with such a company. That is what we did. Subsequent to that, I also said that the National Security and the Office of the President were investigating this matter, and that most of us were victims. Because in my constituency, some structures which had been started had to be completed, and we had to use funds from other sources to be able to complete such structures. For instance, where the place of convenience is demolished, and that's the only facility in the community, some of us could not just watch this facility because they were wondering why the assembly had gone into such a relationship and had gone that bad. So you're saying that the Attorney General said they could no longer prosecute, but that should not be the end of the matter. I've always said that if you enter into an arrangement with me or with the assembly, for the assembly to cede land with the understanding that you would provide funding for the structure to be completed, to be used for you to recoup your investment, and you abandon it halfway, the assembly has every right to come after you. And I don't think that is foreclosed. The only thing is, you're telling me now that the Attorney General doesn't want to prosecute. I haven't seen it. You're saying it. I haven't seen it. But I'm saying that it was one big thing that probably the assemblies could have been a bit more cautious, because some of us even got alarmed that you could find assemblies signing about 20 or more contracts within one constituency, and such persons were to build toilets all over the place. We started questioning them that how would you want your constituency to look like that every step you take?
But they took those decisions because of the letters that you gave. The company came to them.
I have always rejected this, your claim, and I insist on it. And I can dare any chief executive to say that I was involved in such a situation. It's normal. In fact, it took us quite some time to even write that letter, that this company wants to deal with you. They want us to give them a letter. We cannot give them that letter. Let them come to you, assess what they want to bring. If you are comfortable with it, deal with them, but make sure on PPP arrangement. That is what my letter said, and I stand by it. I was mandated by Honorable Alima to write that letter. But to create the impression that I said they should go ahead and build these things, I reject it.
Hold on. You talked about Attorney General there. Honorable Suhini talked about Attorney General stopping prosecution, and you also make a comment on that. What is the basis of prosecution in this matter, if it's a PPP arrangement? I thought that what is necessary is to enforce whatever agreement there was. Where does prosecution come in?
Probably you're saying that because national security got involved, and if they thought that there was any criminal intent or the attempt to defraud any party, because a lot of contractors had made reports to the national security, the police, and that is probably how the Attorney General came to be involved. But if they don't find anything criminal about it, it's a civil matter that we should pursue.
Well, The Assembly signed an agreement with them.
Yes.
The Assembly, from my understanding,
Yes.
provided land. So if the other party does not perform its functions, what can the Assembly do in your view? We are talking as lawyers. Can the Assembly take over? Because I read the gentleman announcing that if anybody touches that, he will sue, that they were his property. Do you have any idea what kind of PPP arrangement they had? If
Yes,
I gave you the land and you procured contractors you haven't paid,
yes.
how does it become your property alone?
Yes, yes, Honorable Chairman. Indeed, the company carried out full-page adverts threatening to take anybody on because we were also threatening to exercise our rights. I thought it was empty threat. And as I said, even in my constituency, there are 2 facilities that I saw to its completion, and nobody has come to. Indeed, we had an arrangement with the contractor. You started this. You said that the company which mandated you to start this is no more taking any interest. Okay, we want to help you to complete it, for you to hand over. I have such facilities in my constituency. It doesn't mean that we cannot go after the person that the Assembly signed the contract with. I'm saying that...
In that case, my interest is, Honorable Minister, says, what have you done about it? You have a very beautiful arrangement for your constituency. Can you advise other districts that this is a legal way to go about it?
Yes, certainly. Except that sometimes you look at the circumstances for each case. I'm saying that in my situation, we managed to sit down with the contractors and then engage them to complete these facilities, but not even all. Because a major problem that we have is where MMDCs sign so many contracts. Oh, we'll give you money to build this, we'll give you money to do it. And you were wondering how they were going to do all these things. Beautiful idea. We want to build a rest stop. People can stop. We make money out of it. You take your share because you bought the land. Halfway, the whole thing was abandoned. We have a right to go after them, case by case. I'm saying that assemblies should still pursue it, unless anybody is compromised. That is a different matter. Unless anybody is compromised. Otherwise, the surest way is to go after them and exact what can be taken from them as we move on. And that should be a lesson to anybody who wants to engage in such a situation.
All right. Thank you very much, Chairman. These follow-ups have been very refreshing. I just needed to put that on record. But, Honorable Nominee, I want to move on to the Constitution. Under Article 78(1), it says, ministers of state shall be appointed by the President with the prior approval of Parliament from among members of Parliament or persons qualified to be elected as members of Parliament, except that the majority of ministers of state shall be appointed from among members of Parliament. Then 79(1) says the President may, in consultation with the Minister of State and with the prior approval of Parliament, appoint one or more deputy ministers to assist the minister in the performance of his functions. Now, you are nominated as a Minister of State at the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. There is a substantive minister. I'm not even interested in whether or not that substantive minister has to be consulted before you are appointed, because you are not a deputy minister. So perhaps that consultation is not necessary. But the Constitution, 79(1), says that the deputy minister assists the minister. As a minister of state, what do you do? Or what do you think you will be doing in relation to the minister?
Well, this question has been asked in various ways. Probably you came a bit late. this question has been answered. But as I said, the president appoints ministers for the efficient running of the state, as you have quoted under 78(2). Parliament, this is not the first time Parliament is encountering this situation. Sometimes the announcement is made, and then a particular aspect of the ministry, for instance, under President Kufuor, Mrs. Betohini, Minister of State in charge of Treasury. Under President Mahama, about 6 ministers of state at the presidency in charge of various projects. Under President Kufuor, Professor Yanka, Minister of State in charge of Treasury.
Sometimes I get you, and that's why perhaps
yes,
your assertion that the question has been asked is correct. But I'm saying, in relation to the minister,
yes,
what will you be doing? Assist?
That's why I've given you
because you
examples.
are both ministers of state.
That's why I've given you examples that Minister Hini was Minister of State in charge of Treasury. Professor Fobi was the minister. Professor Yanka, Minister of State in charge of Treasury. Honorable Matthew Poku-Prempeh, Minister. Honorable Akuto Osei, Minister of State Finance. We had Honorable Barredu, the late, as Minister. So, just this Parliament approved. Professor Yanka, this Parliament has approved. As to what I'll be doing as a Minister of State, I'm still one step below a full minister. So my role will be spelled out as it's been spelled out. I'm already playing a big role in the ministry. I'm sure I'll continue to do that.
But the chairman, that's quite interesting. I don't understand how you are one step below a minister when you are both vetted and approved as ministers of state.
It's an upgrade from deputy minister to a minister of state. So you come back here to be vetted because you were vetted as deputy minister, not minister of state.
Well, it's a conversation we can continue to have, but really the Constitution doesn't say that one minister of state is above another minister of state.
The Constitution
a minister of state is a minister of state.
The Constitution says, as you read, 78(2), the president shall appoint such number of ministers of state as may be necessary for the efficient running of the state. And it includes deputies and ministers of state. If we've come to, and this
so
is
it
not,
doesn't define it as lower. Such ministers of state doesn't define any as lower and other as above.
So you're telling me that if you were to have the privilege of being made minister of state, you would have gone to the ministry to tell the minister that I'm equal with you. Now we are 2 ministers. We all go to cabinet. We will do. You know that is not what it is practically. So I wonder what you want me to say beyond the fact that I acknowledge that there's a full minister, and I'm a step below, but a step up, deputy minister.
Well, like you said, if I am fortunate, nothing stops me from doing that. At least the Constitution doesn't.
Okay.
And maybe because of that, don't you think we should be properly defining this minister of state at the ministry properly? Because the Constitution doesn't stop anybody from walking to the ministry and saying, I'm also a minister of state, and we are of equal stature based on the Constitution.
The appointor, the head of state, Commander-in-Chief of the Republic, has put you there and more or less spelled out your role. If you think that is not your role, you leave, or he fires you. So we should not create the impression that you've been given a title so you can just walk in and say that, yeah, I'm also your equal, so I can do everything. Somebody appointed you. And if you don't understand your role, you find out from him. If you insist that you are at par, and it's already told you are not at par, you either leave or he fires you.
Okay, so maybe in wrapping up on this, will you suggest that as a committee given especially the calls on government to, reduce its size if it is unable to justify some of the appointments that they make. Will you agree with the committee? Will you agree that the committee should perhaps write to the appointor, like you said, the appointing authority, to give us an explanation of what your role specifically is going to be as Minister of State before we consider your approval or not?
I don't agree with you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah. Okay, Awama was here before you. Yes.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Honorable Senior, congratulations. I want you to use this opportunity to walk us through the ministry's relationship with GRA on the new property tax regime. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If honorable members will recall, the 2022 budget, I have extracts here. The Minister of Finance said that regarding property rates, the decision has been taken. It's now government policy that GRA should assist the assemblies to be able to collect property rates and a certain sharing ratio agreed upon. And indeed, this House passed the budget. It's one of the revenue streams. But there's a background to it. Indeed, the Minister of Finance had been complaining for some time and the kind of revenue they expect from property rate administration is a bit disappointing. And if you look at our Constitution, under 240, as one of the pillars of decentralization, it says that assemblies should have the financial base with reliable and sustainable revenue. And if you look at the sources of revenue for the assemblies, property rate collection is supposed to be one of the major sources of revenue. But indeed, Honorable Damboche authorized for a certain search or study to be carried out for the past 10 years. And I have some of the details here. Indeed, the assemblies have not been able to meet the required level, some as low as you may think of, big assemblies. And they have their own challenges. The mode of collection, the billing system, the enforcement arrangement, and almost every sincere person complains that indeed this is not how it should go. Those who have had this experience of paying property rate, properly so-called, are the first to complain. That elsewhere, you see your road starred, you see other facilities provided, and when it comes to property rate, we collect peanuts. Sometimes even for years, no assessment has been made. So this whole arrangement of GRA is to bring in a certain reform and dynamism which should let us reap so much from the property rate. And indeed, if you speak to some of the chief executives, without wanting to come out boldly, they say that this is the best way to go. I thought probably we were the only ones they were speaking to. There's even a study on behalf of a foreign government as to how the chief executives see this arrangement. And they say that that is the best way to go. Some have even confided in us that, indeed, when it comes to enforcement, they are handicapped. We need a situation where people will be named and shamed, people will be prosecuted. And the law gives us the opportunity. Your property may even be sold for to recoup what you have not paid. The law has made room for that. And if we don't show our teeth, let people know that if you owe the assembly, this is the extent to which the assembly can go to recover, we will not get anywhere. But the system has to be modernized. I mean, if you own land in Accra here, you own land in Accra here, you can have on your phone a message for Lands Commission that your ground rent is due. Pay through this bank, and then they will show you receipt and give you notice that you've paid. How come when it comes to property, we wait? At the last vetting, I made an example of having to send my assistant to the assembly to go and inquire how much I owe and to pay. They couldn't even tell me whether what I've paid was for 2 years or 3 years. They cast across. And I don't blame them. If I sit here, they may think that I'm castigating or blaming them. But the reality is that we have not employed modern methods to be able to collect our property rates, and we have not enforced what is due us. We have not extracted our so-called pound of flesh, and it's hurting us. And if you do the math, if indeed we're able to carry out this, it will go a long way. Of course, one major handicap was valuation of property. As the law stands, is a land valuation division of Lands Commission that has the responsibility to value these properties. When the minister has written to the Minister of Lands, that has been done. Land valuation is poised to carry out. Indeed, they are saying that by the 1st of March, more than 261 assemblies should have their properties valued. As we speak, we only have 76. There's 185 that we still haven't valued, and for that reason, the bills are provisional, and even though the Rate Assessment Committee can be petitioned to look into some of these bills, we think that the way forward is to modernize this whole thing and let it work. See it for the next year or 2, 3, and it will come to stay that this is the best way to go. And the assemblies are happy, even for the kind of arrangement that if you're able to collect so much and you send me my 70%, I'm more home and dry, and the rest is between GRA and the Ministry of Finance.
Chairman, my last question is on Kwapem South, Dome Kitasi Road. You've been fighting for this road for some time now. I can see some smiles on your face. Where are we on that? And congratulations, thank you.
You may have to tell the committee that you are an interested party and there's conflict of interest. Those who have properties there, their properties are appreciating.
I have admitted the question, so kindly answer.
Those who have properties there have their properties appreciating by the day. Thankfully, the contractor is on the road doing very well. Fair Sky, Kuwaiti Fund, we had to do a lot, but thankfully the president came to cut the sword, and from there everything is moving. We are hoping that within the period that has been given to the contractor, funding will also be available at every turn so that the project will be completed on time. As you said, it starts from Dobi-Komeya. Most of the communities are in my constituency, up to Kitasi, and even Ashanti University would also benefit from this. So, I mean, when we appeared before the Finance Committee on this project, some of our colleagues were even jealous that how come we have been able to convince all the powers, the almighty Amoah and the finance minister can offer after to pursue this for you to get this kind of facility. We thank God that the contractor too is delivering. Sometimes you may get it and then there will be problems with execution, but so far it's going very well. Thank you. And your property is appreciating. And apart from you yourself, I know you have clients too whose properties are appreciating.
That's out of order. Yes, Zara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning and congratulations on your elevation. I suspect you would have done some brilliant things that would have caught the eye of the president for you to end this elevation. My question, Honorable, is to do with our MMDAs. Now, you've been around the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development since 2017, and so clearly you'll be averse with the way of running the municipalities, the outcomes, some of the challenges that the municipalities are facing, and what the general outlook will be for the MMDEs, especially those in rural Ghana. My municipality, the East Gonja municipality, I classify it as a rural municipality. And so there are a lot of challenges, and up to a point where it begins to look like dysfunctional, you know. So I'm wondering if indeed you get the nod from this committee and you are able to assist your substantive minister in this elevated role. What will you do together to make the MMDAs, and I keep emphasizing those in rural Ghana, more responsive to the people in terms of providing basic service to them? And I'll share an experience with you. Recently, as recent as January, I go to a community in my constituency called Kuane on 30th January. And the whole the community is in darkness. And I'm told that there was a vehicular accident that pulled down the transmitter since 29th December. And they had made appeals to the assembly, and there was no response. So I go to the municipal NEDCO office the day after and lodge a complaint, and the gentleman is talking too much English. So, because it wasn't solving the problem. So I make a call to NEDCO headquarters in Tamale, and I get response, because this is Monday, and the gentleman tells me, Hajia, Wednesday will bring a new transformer. This hasn't been brought to our attention. And so Thursday, there's a new transformer installed for the community. So, but for 1 month, they had to go without electricity because the assembly is just not responding to the people of Kuane. What will you do, and what will you do with the minister to make sure that, I mean, apart from providing service to the people, also reducing the burden on the MPs? I mean, then it begins to look like we are in darkness and the MP is not doing anything.
Yes, the MP carries all the burden. If it's good, of course, the others will want to share. If it's bad, it's the MP who is not delivering. That is a cross. But some of these things we should know. For your information, we even have what we call the dashboard, where the MMDCs are monitored continuously. You're supposed to bring a report regularly as to what you're doing in your districts. Quarterly reports, regular reports as to what is happening. And if we have any reason to believe that some MMDCs take some of these things for granted, it will go against them. They will be marked down. The unfortunate part, which Minister has been complaining about, is where, for negligence and a kind of lukewarm attitude, the whole assembly will lose funding. Because there are indicators. If you don't satisfy the indicators, if you don't pass all the indicators, the assembly may not get grants, especially under the responsive factor grant, where the DACF brings in money and some donors also put in money. Some assemblies have lost money because those in charge of the assemblies did not do what they were supposed to do. And we take strong exception to these things. So, but we are all in this together. Some of these things, if you let us know, we also find a way of getting to them and finding out. And we do. Just by now, technology, just a message. Respond to this. Why is this happening? It goes on every time. But as you let us know some of these things, we also ensure that they give us the right responses. and also assess them in the light of some of these things. The president is the appointer, but if he gets the report and he believes that enough assessment has been done and people are not delivering, he's the manager. He has every right to substitute players on the field for the players to play the rest of the match for victory to be secured. So I'm not isolating your situation, but indeed some would have to live up to expectation to avoid such situations, and for the people to know that indeed governance has come to the doorstep. Assemblies are not equal in strength. Some have the resources, some don't. They depend on central government. But there are things that chief executives can do without necessarily saying that they are well endowed for the community to also benefit, like what you carried out and then the results that you had. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Chairman, I will. Even though I'm conflicted by friendship, I want to take the responsibility of making sure that my very good friend Obi Amoah respond to certain issues. Mr. Chairman, first I want to take him back to the answer he just gave, talking about accountability and transparency at the local governance level. How do you measure the current system we have as being transparent and accountable to the people for whom local governance is supposed to help in their development?
Your question is so broad, but I'll attempt to put in within a certain bracket. Yes, indeed, we have things in common, local governance and sports, and we seem to be crossing each other. I was in sports, you went to sports. You were in local government, I'm in local government. And we have our own issues. Well, accountability and transparency. Well, there are structures in place, either in the Constitution or the Local Governance Act, and other acts to ensure that the assemblies are run in a transparent and accountable manner at every point in time. That's why we have internal audit. That's why we have internal audit implementation committees. That's why the Auditor General, the Audit Service, going into audit assemblies. The essence is that everything that you carry out should be within the law and should be under your mandate. So whether it's the Public Financial Management Act, whether it's the Internal Audit Agency Act, whether it's the Procurement Act, all the laws are in place for you to also ensure that you do the right thing. And as I said, with these structures, we then expect you to follow the rule or be exposed and get sanctioned for it. The sanctions can be several. Indeed, there's a report here where the Auditor General has recovered disallowed expenditure from 2017 to 2020, and of course payroll savings. The Auditor General has this whole report, and it's part of being accountable and being transparent. To the extent that you've been made to even pay back some money, that may not even be the end of the matter. You can be sanctioned administratively, and if, as I say, if you don't live up to expectation, you face the consequences. So the laws in the Constitution demand accountability and transparency. And we must also admit that there's a lot that we still can do, in the sense that we have to comply as administrators. We have to comply with what the law says we should do, and equip those who are supposed to carry out these things, especially in building capacity, because that has been one of the issues and the challenges. Luckily, now, not luckily, as required, every assembly now has internal audit unit. Every assembly now has audit implementation committee. And we think that with these structures in place, the internal audit agency should be the first stop in ensuring that the right things are done, whilst the Auditor General has every right to audit and then sanction and bring reports to us for us to also do what we are required to do. I said your question is broad enough, but that's the area I want to pick and talk about.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I just want my brother to also take the responsibility to assist and to work together with Honorable Damboche to expand the transparency and accountability desk at the ministry and in all the MMDAs. It's very important for us as far as our development partners are concerned. My next issue has to do with the issue of fiscal decentralization. The most effective decentralized governance is the one that devolves responsibilities with fiscal responsibility. Our decentralization has been said to be still toddling because we've not really complied with that most important aspect of decentralization, which is the fiscal decentralization. What do you think we can do to enhance fiscal decentralization so that the assemblies will be able to have the resources to support the devolved functions that have been thrusted upon them?
This subject has been discussed. In some parts, you will not hear, but the issue about revenue generation, the issue about local economic development, the issue about building a competitive environment for micro and then the medium scale industries to thrive, the issue about government flagship programs, one district, one factory, to get the assemblies or the communities and the districts moving in a certain economically viable tangent. All those are issues that we've discussed here. There are some that, as I said, for instance, the local economic development, how the ministry has a policy in place, how the minister is so critical about it, passionate about it, and how we're moving in a certain direction where we want to get every district to harness its potentials and not only to depend on the center, but create that environment where business will thrive. And of course, we just talked about property rate, how we can make so much from property rate. If we put the right structures in place, if we modernize what we've been doing all these years, and then ensure that within the next year or two, we make so much for the assemblies to also carry out other projects and other ventures that they have to do.
Yesterday in our meeting with the nominee for chieftaincy, he enumerated how vital, important, and desirable it is to have our traditional authorities as being part of the local governance system. And that really took me to the old, even colonial days, where through the indirect rule, our traditional authorities were playing a functional role as far as local governance was concerned. Will you agree with me that to some extent, our, let me say, leaving out the traditional authority in a functional capacity is affecting our local governance. And if you do, what do you think we have to do apart from the so-called issue of they having a representative in assembly to get them properly involved so that our questions about land tenure, land economy, local economic development, environmental degradation, galamsey and all those things could be effectively policed under the local governance system?
Well, that is another topic on its own. I remember when we were engaging stakeholders in the president's agenda to have MMDCs elected. The issue about the role of chiefs came up. And indeed, the roadmap was to go through the referendum, get referendum in place in 2019. By 2021, get chief executives elected. But within the 2-year period, a lot of constitutional issues to be looked at so that we will have such stakeholders like chiefs also playing their role in the assembly. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to reach that point. I think that for us as political party players, for us as members of parliament, we need a bipartisan approach to some of these issues. We went very far in getting to the first step about this whole referendum. At the last minute, we didn't seem to have everybody on board. And that has really derailed a lot of reforms which were in the pipeline. If we were to look at the roadmap, all these issues were to be addressed. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten there. We still can do it. Let's form a bipartisan group in parliament here, agree on a lot of these issues, and say that we have built a consensus as to the way forward in the political decentralization and then participatory democracy at the local level. Some of us may have looked at the positive points that you have raised and say that why not we can look at it this way. So some of you too should look at the positive sides of what we've raised. Indeed, for the whole world, I always say it, for the whole world is irregular that we still appoint our MMDCs and we still have such structures as assemblies without all the reforms that we can make. The chiefs presented a paper on how they could move forward. I remember very well engaging Professor S.K.B. Asante to the point of letting him know that the paper the chiefs presented at the consultative assembly as to the role they can play in the assemblies was rejected. And they had carved out a very significant role to play as far as the assemblies were concerned. But at that stage it was rejected. And it didn't find its way in our constitution. And as it is, what we have is where they can send representatives to the assembly as government appointees for them to also play their part. But moving forward, I think some of these things, some are constitutional issues that we cannot just wish away. We'll have to agree, especially for us in Parliament, that this is the way to go, and then we do it.
After, then we come to leadership. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Honorable Obi Amoah, I congratulate you. Our colleague Gisela calls you heckler in chief. Of course, you heckler in chief. So today you are in a saddle. You know, I was enjoying the conversation regarding Article 78, the scope and effect of Article 78 that Honorable Suini brought up. My understanding of Article 78, and correct me if I'm wrong, as senior counsel,
that it's entirely possible for a president to name a list of ministers, transmit it to Parliament without even attaching portfolio. Article 78(1). Is it possible?
For efficient running of the state, sometimes you have to look at the norm and the precedent. Who is going where? And indeed, the Constitution even spells out the number of cabinet ministers. Even though every minister attends cabinet, it's not every minister who is a cabinet minister. So, for efficiency and expediency, probably you may not want to just bring the list without any portfolio. Then at what point do we even vet those who have been nominated, and where do we know they are going for us to get the right response from them? So if strictly you want to go by the Constitution, there's a lot that the president can do, but as I have said, I mean, if you look at the presidents everywhere, not only in Ghana, there's always a portfolio, except that once you've inverted, let's say if you inverted as Minister for Energy, if you have to become Foreign Affairs Minister, if you have to become Foreign Affairs Minister, you don't need to come here again. Yes. So even though we will ask you questions probably on energy, if tomorrow the president says, go to Foreign Affairs, you are gone. You don't come to us again for us to know whether we can examine you again as to whether you are competent to be Foreign Affairs Minister. As he said in P, sound. But I'm just using you as an example. Yes, so.
Thank you. The reason I take this position is because it's very possible in the course of the administration for the president to do a reshuffle without coming back. So the appointment is to the person. So we are testing whether you are suitable to be a minister of state, not necessarily to be a minister for so and so, ministry. And that is my view. In fact, you said that it is a norm, but I know, for instance, in Nigeria, when the president transmitted his list of ministers, he just sent the names. After they were vetted by the Senate, then he now puts, you are going to this place, you to this ministry, you to that ministry. And that is, but that's just for the discussion. I have one question for you, substantive question, regarding Gulf of Guinea social cohesion projects. My district my municipality has been selected as one of the key areas for focus. Now, my understanding it has to do with climate resilience, security, and so on and so forth. Can you educate me more on, and what are the timelines for rolling out, and what do the districts stand to benefit as far as this project is concerned? Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I have no further question.
Yes, thank you so much. To the earlier discussion, the president, after swearing in ministers, the following day can do reshuffle and change all the portfolios, and he's entitled to do that. And it's been happening. Some are vetted to be Greater Accra Regional Minister. The following day, they've been sent to Eastern Region as a regional minister. So, Honorable Kotti, overnight can become a minister elsewhere, even though he's known as the King Kong of Greater Accra. Yes, Gulf of Guinea, Northern Region's Social Cohesion Project. It's one of the major projects in the ministry. We have the Ghana Safety Net, Ghana Productive Safety Net project. We also have the Ghana Secondary Cities project. They are all key projects in the ministry. But for your question, the Gulf of Guinea project, which we call SOCO project, Social Cohesion, involves 48 districts. when you asked me the question, I tried to pull out the document here. We have 11 from Upper West region, 15 Upper East region, 8 Northern region, 6 Northeast, 4 Savannah, and 4 OT. As the name goes, there are 4 countries who are involved in this. The World Bank facility contracted by various countries. Ghana has gone for $150 million to be able to empower these districts, especially the youth and the vulnerable, and to look at other aspects where they can be more productive so that they are not exposed to all these jihadist movement and other things coming across. And for us, it's taking off. If you remember, the Vice President launched it. And as you said, your district is very much involved. The stage we've reached is to get the assemblies to submit the kind of projects that they want to undertake. And then how you also get involved so that within the mandated period, we should be able to invest in communities to show resilience and inclusion and to get the youth more occupied and also build structures to make it worthwhile. And of course, we don't discard the climate change aspect of it. And for that, it's quite some substantial money that the government of Ghana has contracted to be able to develop these districts. And as I said, it's not only about this project. For the safety net project, you're talking about 100 districts. And for the secondary cities, 35 municipal assemblies. All these are substantial sums contracted by the government of Ghana to be able to develop these communities. And I think we've discussed your place before, but you're always welcome for us to get you more involved, even though you are required to be involved, as to how far we've gone with your assembly and the whole project. I don't know whether I've satisfied you in answering, unless you want to know more, which the minister has always told you that you are invited.
Okay, I think I should come to leadership now. All right, I'll give you one for.
Senior, congratulations. Sometime between 2017 and 2021, we passed a new act empowering local governments to revert to their management and supervision of basic schools in the country. Now, we don't see the supervision or the management from the local assemblies. Rather, selling of school lands for shops in Kumasi, especially, and other places. All basic school lands, especially the school fields that they are playing with, is being sold left, right, and center. Popular, a same cluster of schools. Now, shops are same. Shops have been built by the assembly around all the school. It's turning into a market. You go and people are playing, taking over the school fields 24. They don't even allow the school children to enjoy school. What is the local government ministry and its assemblies going to do about this? Because if we don't put a stop to it, another central government will try to take what is giving legitimately to local government back to the center.
You've raised various issues, and I think the first thing we need to know under the Local Governance Act is the heads of department are part of the assembly system, and that if they attend meetings, heads of department meetings, with the chief executive, then obviously they should be able to draw the attention of the chief executive, of the heads of department, to such situations before it even gets beyond them. What you've said is something that needs to be investigated and interrogated. But I don't think that decentralization would have caused this. Yes, I don't think decentralization would have caused it. If it's encroachment of public spaces by the assembly itself, then they should know that once people encroach on public spaces, they are mandated to act. And if they themselves are doing the encroachment, then of course, I'm sure some people are listening, and those involved, if they are not listening, people will let them know that this is an issue which has come up. And once it's come up, I'm sure Minister will mandate that the matter should be investigated and then the right thing carried out. He called me senior because I was his senior at Pempe College. I was his house prefect.
He was my house prefect. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable Obi Amoah, in your initial presentation, you did say the number of ministers currently 85. Can you confirm whether it's 85 or 86?
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus how many?
He proposed to have counted 86, and my records were 85. We can reconcile the figure.
I can't reconcile. You have to answer the question.
Oh,
do you know whether we have 85 ministers or 86 ministers?
By my count, or from what I've read, I thought it's 85. But if you have had 86, we can look at it and see who is right.
Can you name the deputy ministers under the current ministry you serve, including yourself?
Can I name
them? The number and their names.
They are here. Honorable Matthew James, MP, the Chairman, South. Honorable Collins in Tim, Collins Augustine Tim, MP, Office North, and Amoah, MP, Ekwapem South. The capital is Ebri.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I agree with you that Article 78(2) basically just says the President has the right, I'm paraphrasing, to appoint those ministers that will ensure the efficient running of the state. What particular inefficiency currently exists at the ministry you are a deputy minister that requires you to be elevated to a minister of state? What inefficiency, because the law says to ensure efficient running of the state. So if the president has already made you a deputy minister and trying to elevate you to a minister of state, it means the president probably have noticed an inefficiency, though I'm aware that the current minister is very experienced and a very a veteran politician. What do you see as the current inefficiency at the local government ministry requiring you to be elevated, and as you are elevated, that inefficiency will be cured?
My good friend, Honorable Govins, the new chief whip, powerful man. So you, I mean, this on the lighter side because it's you. So is there any inefficiency in you becoming a chief whip?
Actually, I was not elevated alongside an existing chief whip. I am replacing somebody, so there's only one chief whip of the minority currently.
Yes, thank you so much. I don't think you're interpreting the provision very well. The fact that the provision says for the efficient running of the state doesn't mean that if the president takes any decision, that means that there's inefficiency, that's why he's taking a decision. That is not the interpretation of the Constitution. So you don't say that the president has elevated a deputy minister to minister of state because there's inefficiency. I don't think that's how you should put it. It would be too constricted. If the president thought I was inefficient, he would have replaced me, not upgrade me and say what inefficiency is he looking at. So let's look at it in that way. We spent about a third of the time here talking about Minister of State and the size of government. We've been here. I think we are still going back to the same situation. Probably there's very little I can add from what I've said so far, because the other presidents in appointing ministers of state, even sits at the presidency, they don't say that there's inefficiency. That's why they are appointing them. And our senior colleagues and friends who were named 3 wise men, they were not put in because there's inefficiency. But the president thought that he needed such team for the efficient running of the state. We can sit back and probably interrogate it, but that doesn't mean that it's because of inefficiency that he's placing anybody anywhere. I beg to differ on that interpretation.
Well, my point was based on Article 78(2), and I read again. The president shall appoint such number of ministers of state as may be necessary for the efficient running of the state. The president is not supposed to appoint ministers for the sake of appointing them. It is supposed to be an action that will help him run the state efficiently. So the point I'm making is that you are 3 deputy ministers together with a very experienced leader as the minister. So the question is, what is the reason for elevating you? Is there an efficiency already within your portfolio that your elevation will cure?
Well, local government ministry is a very large ministry. Very large. Indeed, it's being added on. I've sat here and spoken about 3 key projects that we have to deliver. So if for any reason the president thinks that he can still keep this team at the ministry, I don't think that we are talking about inefficiency. And yes, it's for the efficient running of the place. We are still there. Apart from the projects that I've spoken about, the property rate administration is a huge area.
Honorable Senior Deputy Minister, just answer questions. Leave the argument out. You answer the question, don't make the argument further, so we can move faster. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I was very excited when the president decided to completely remove the position of deputy regional ministers. Do you realize that the country didn't appear to be lacking any efficiency in managing the regions, even though the deputy ministers have been taken out? Have you?
No, I don't agree with you. Not at all. I mean, even for a region to be run without a deputy, it's a very difficult situation. I mean, for any reason the minister is not available, who acts? Is it a public servant? We have 43 districts in Ashanti, and then the minister would have to be absent for various reasons. Who runs the place? We have to take another minister from the center to go and run the place. So, for anything,
So you disagree with the president for removing deputy regional ministers?
You are putting words in my mouth. You were saying that it's working very well. I'm saying that, yes, the situation is not as you see it. The situation is as you see it. You try to drive to a point where you say that if you don't need deputy ministers in the regions, very soon you don't need deputy ministers in the ministries. And very soon, one minister should run 4 ministries. I don't think we should get to that point.
So are you admitting that the president's decision was not well thought out or considered?
Is this cross-examination? You put it to me. Are you putting it to
I'm not
me?
putting it. I'm asking you whether you think the president's decision was not well thought out.
I think, let me moderate. Kindly ask the question in another way. Yes, sir.
Will you say the president's decision was not appropriate? Because as you have admitted, his decision has actually made things worse because, in your words, the absence of a regional minister now makes coordinating of district chief executives difficult.
So what do you want the president to do now? He has deputy ministers, you complain. He takes them out, you complain. What else do you want the president to do? The president, in his wisdom, has decided that this is the team that he has to use. But doesn't mean that...
Honorable Amoah, let's avoid arguments. You're not sitting here, now you're sitting there. You are the nominee, not a member.
Putting words in my mouth that I'm saying the president has this, that. That's what I've said. Please, and this is the third time
Honorable
you say that.
Amoah, I can suspend your consideration for the next 3 days. Right. Well, all I'm saying is that answer the questions, yes or no. Cut out the argument. Yes, he says, would you say the president, do you agree or not? Oh, leave it there.
The president has not heard. I'm just drawing your attention that you cannot, over this short period, say that it's good, so he has to carry it through. That's all.
Okay, just for your information, I actually said I commended the president when he decided. I would have been happier if he even reduced the deputy ministers. But that's for another day. I would go this way. When you take the report on audit of government of Ghana COVID expenditure for the period March 20th to June 2022, that document on page 53, a table headlined Misapplication of COVID-19 Funds. The second table talks about release of funds and actually the main headline is the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. And it says, release of funds for the purchase of curtains for the following rooms: room 32, room 13, room 38, a number of rooms up to room 27. 27,057 cedis and 2 pesos. At the time of COVID, when things were difficult, do you think it was appropriate for your ministry to use 27,000 to buy curtains? Are curtains the most urgent things when you have a medical disaster in a country? Yes.
Well, the Auditor General has found that to be misapplication, and the ministry has been asked to rectify it. That's all I can say.
Did the ministry spend that amount of money on curtains in a medical COVID money under a medical disaster emergency?
This cannot be a personal question for me because what you're saying, I'm not even aware. But I'm saying that that's what the Auditor General has found out, and he says it's misapplication. So the ministry should rectify it, and that's what we're doing.
Do you find, if it is true, will you say that that was a wrong way of spending public funds under a medical emergency?
That's what the Auditor General has said. And the Auditor General is saying that the funds were allocated for specific purpose. and if for any reason you don't apply to that purpose, then you have misapplied the funds. So you face the consequences.
Well, Honorable, a senior colleague, you are the one who, Auditor General doesn't want to be Minister of Local Government. You are the one who wants to be the minister. You may be the one making similar decisions. So I'm asking you, will you take a decision like that? Thank you for the advice. I'll move on. My good friend, Honorable Henry, the Greater Accra Regional Minister, is not here. But I have this question as well. I am aware you are the ministry that superintends over the regional coordinating councils. There's been an issue where we can all see, including as we speak, some citizens of this country keep filling Sakumono Ramsar site with refuse. As they fill, then the land gets allocated to people to own and build on it. This issue has come even to Parliament. Have you ever cited a report that suggests that Sakumono Ramsar site is being filled with refuse under the watch of the relevant district assembly in Tema?
Well, Ramsar site has been in the news for quite some time, and I'll commend the regional minister for the efforts he's making in ensuring that Ramsar site is kept the way it's supposed to be kept. There are reports as to how the land has been misused. Some encroachment, some without any authority, using the land as the way they want to use it. And indeed, as I said, the Greater Accra Regional Minister must be commended for all the effort he's made. If there are other reports which should indict any chief executive, I'm sure Honorable Minister will take the required action. And if there are any instructions that he will give, we'll carry out the instructions to abate any untoward situation as far as Ramsar site is concerned.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. On 29th of December 2015, there are various reports of an interview you granted where you suggested that there's a need for a minimum qualification to become a member of parliament. And I agree with you. 2015, Ghana Web, Ghana Policy, I mean, it's widely reported. And you suggested that the minimum qualification to become a member of parliament should be a first degree. Do you still hold on to that belief?
Well, probably I was taken out of context. If I remember very well, unless we are picking from somewhere, I was at a program with Honorable Fritz Baffo, and the issue about minimum qualification, all those things came in. I couldn't have said that flatly or in extenso. If you don't have a first degree, you can't be an MP. I have very good friends who don't have first degrees, who become fantastic MPs. But if you, sometimes you put that, you may even say ideally. Ideally doesn't mean that if somebody is outside the bracket, then it means he can be a good MP. It was a discussion on how to enrich some of these things, and probably that's how it was picked, or that's how it came out. I would not make that flat, categorical statement when that is not so. I have very good friends who have excelled in their various fields and not necessarily holding a first degree. My major point is the work of an MP is sometimes very intellectual. People sit outside, they have the impression that Oh, maybe I had a shock of my life when a policeman said he didn't know MPs go to work. That's, I mean, so we get up and we roam in the constituency. This is a place of work. And so people should have an idea of the kind of work we do here. And that if you come here, you'll be saddled with so much intellectual work that you should be prepared for it. That's the kind of thing that I want to put across, not to just write off any group of people.
Thank you very much. What is the relationship between your ministry currently and the Ministry of Water Resource and Sanitation, Water and Sanitation, in terms of managing waste in the city?
The Honorable Minister for Water Resource and Sanitation appeared before us last week to answer questions, and in the supplementary questions, this issue came up. She says her ministry is more concerned with policy, but when it comes to implementation, she cannot do away with the assemblies because that is where the situation is. And that's how we try to coexist. Policy level, they get to a certain level, but when it comes to implementation, you expect that our ministry will be involved because it is at a local level.
Thank you very much. Would you say it will be better for that ministry to be sent back to Works and Housing and then allow you to run the city as the public expects?
Mr. Chairman, he's asking me whether the press conference or the statement they issued yesterday, whether I agree with it. I don't agree with it.
Chairman, I have a concern about this matter. Mr. Chairman, the honorable nominee is before us. He's been asked a question. The question has nothing to do with the NDC's press conference. And he's making reference to a press conference that is not before us. Mr. Chairman, we take strong objection to that. He should know that he's before us. You are not here to bully us. And we are here to, as a colleague, you are here. Please, just answer the question.
Mr. Chairman,
don't bring the NDC in.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, if the leader feels bullied, I'm sorry. I never intended to bully anybody here. What I'm saying is that the suggestion has been made. You want to talk?
Well, this is your objection to his answer, but I disagree with you because he can relate to what is already in public and says that the question is asking him to agree with their stance as contained in the press conference, but he doesn't agree with it. I think it's a fair question.
Okay.
Well, that is his assessment.
Okay. Honorable Obi Amoah, with a very experienced minister in the person of our senior sitting to your right-hand side, 3 of you being his deputies, also capable, will you say that your elevation, not because you are not qualified, yes, in fact, you could be any substantive minister in any ministry, and I agree. Will you say that your elevation has nothing to do with bringing efficiency to that ministry and therefore should not be approved?
With all due respect, I don't agree with you.
I'm happy you said that the management of waste in the city should, and that is what the public believes should be under the Ministry of Local Government, and I agree with you. If you turn to page 85 of the same audit report on COVID expenditure, the state is reported to have spent 5 million Ghana cedis on an item they call removal of plastic waste and other foreign material debris from storm drains in selected areas in Accra. Is it your considered view that the Ministry of Water Resources, Water and Sanitation, actually have a better understanding of which drains needed to be cleared, to the extent that they spent 5 million Ghana cedis of COVID money to remove, as they call it, plastic waste in storm drains across the city?
I don't really get your question.
I'm asking
yes.
that I agreed with you when you said the management of waste and other things in the city. Indeed, when parts of Adaklu get dirty, citizens of Adaklu expect my honorable DC to be responsible for getting that cleared up through various means. And I agree with you when you answered by saying that water resources work closely with you. This expenditure of 5 million Ghana cedi, I would have understood it better if you told me, or if it was recorded that La Dadeko Tupon or an assembly, a collection of them, spend this money. Then it will be difficult, it will be easier to trace, I'm saying. Since it is just captured as an item under water resources and sanitation, will you say that this expenditure would have been better explained if it was expended under your ministry?
I still don't understand your situation.
Let me try, and he's saying that under the budget, is that right?
Yeah. Under the audit report.
Audit report of COVID-19, there is a report that Ministry of Water Resources has spent 5 million cedis to clean up a drain. And in his view, such cleanup ought to have been done by the assembly. Would you agree with that? Or let's say this expenditure should have been done by an assembly and not by the Minister of Resources to clean storm drain.
Unfortunately, I looked at the report, but I didn't look at that session, probably because it was water and sanitation. But it depends on the circumstances. I cannot sit here and just pass judgment because the water and sanitation has been cited for using money at a place. I cannot sit here and do that. It will require more interrogation before I can conclude on this matter.
Let me make it even better. On that table, there are 5 items. Let me give you examples. Emergency cleanup exercise in the Greater Accra metropolitan area, 2.9 million Ghana cedi. Emergency cleanup exercise in Greater Kumasi metropolitan area. Then the one I mentioned about, that one, Zoom Lion Ghana Limited. The second one, Zoom Lion Ghana Limited, 2.7 million. The third one, emergency cleanup exercise in 14 regional capitals. Zoom Lion Limited, 5.6 million Ghana cedi. Removal of plastic waste and other foreign material debris from storm drains in selected areas in Accra, 5 million Ghana cedi flat. The last and the fifth one, contract for procurement of dust bins, Duraplast Limited, 1.7 million. All these are things I know.
So you're coming back.
Activities under the Ministry of Local Government.
You are coming back to your point that sanitation ministry should have been part of local government ministry. And that if it is spent that money, then we should rather have spent the money. But it's not our remit. It's their ministry, and they know how to spend their money. And if the Auditor General has a problem with it, they have to answer. It's not for me to sit here and say that money should have come to us. Why have they spent it? I can't do that.
So when there's a litter overflow or rubbish on the street of any city within Ghana now, whose responsibility is it to clean up? Is it local government ministry or sanitation ministry?
Well, it depends on the assembly. There's an assembly under the local government ministry. And if they are mandated to clean it, they have to clean it. But if sanitation has any resources and want to spend in such situations, I cannot sit here and say that it should have come to us.
Actually, it was not their resources. It was COVID money. It was a health emergency.
But it was listed under them.
Are you aware of how the sanitation fund approved by this House, how much has been accrued so far, and what major expenditure lines have been taken care of so far?
Well, I know the sanitation fund is under the Ministry of Finance. And then the Ministry of Finance has a say in how it's disbursed. I don't know the figure as I sit here. I know it's supposed to have accumulated over a period. I don't know the figure as I sit here, but I'm saying that we don't control the funds, it's the Ministry of Finance.
Have they disbursed any part of these funds towards an activity that you can call sanitation so far? Because the fund is sanitation.
I need to check, but if it's environmental fund that you're talking about, or whatever, sanitation, I need to check. If they've dispersed it, it means that they felt that the money should be used for that purpose.
Chairman, I would end it here and let my director take it.
Honorable Ranking Member, Vice Chair.
Chair, no questions.
Yes, Ranking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, good afternoon. First, can you explain to us what has been your role at the Ministry of Local Government since 2017?
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Thank you, Ranking. Yes, I've been the Deputy Minister at the Ministry, first under Hajia Aliba Mahama, and now under Honorable Damboche. My role is as a deputy. You assist and you deputize. That's what I've been doing.
So you have two other deputy ministers at the Ministry of Local Government. Can you educate us specifically your role as against the remaining two other deputy ministers? Can you educate us specifically?
Well, as I said earlier, the ministry is very large. It's a big ministry, and we all have our roles to play. For instance, if it comes to supervising even the districts, it's been zoned into 4. As I sit here, I'm in charge of Greater Accra, Central and Western, 65 districts.
The picture quality of the video, even the location.
At a time, how many deputy ministers were at the Ministry of Local Government, and a minister were at the Ministry of Local Government?
Honorable Ranking and Minority Leader, we've gone over this. I said at the time a minister and 2 deputies. And you said that because sanitation was part of it, you think that that's what should be. I can't argue with you.
I'm asking you this question because you said the Ministry of Local Government is a large ministry. Yes, I agree it's a large ministry, but it was bigger prior to 2017 when sanitation was part of it.
And okay.
And yet,
Chairman has given me the cue that I should not be arguing too much.
And yet, the government at the time managed with 1 minister and 2 deputies.
I'm careful not to then talk about how well it was managed and how efficient it was managed. It will lead us to another argument. But your point is that you had a deputy and a minister and 2 deputies, and you had sanitation attached to it, so it was bigger. I don't want us to extend this. Otherwise, I'll also tell you what has been added to our ministry. 6 new regions, new projects, new markets, and all those things. But
so
I don't want us to...
So currently, I don't know, you said a new market. Do you manage markets?
I said, the Kumasi and Takrady markets, we are supervising it. We are supervising it.
But is market not the responsibility of the assemblies, or because you supervise the assemblies?
Honorable Ranking, the first issue was about size. And I'm saying that if it's about size, I can also tell you how we've expanded. And so I was giving examples. I don't want us to start dwelling on who has to build market, who do, I think we can move on.
Do you have a presidential staffer attached to your ministry?
Yes. He's also the executive secretary for IMCC.
So you have 3 deputies, 1 minister, and 1 presidential staffer, correct?
He's the executive secretary for IMCC, but he works with us. So he's the presidential advisor and acting executive secretary for Interministerial Coordinating Committee on Decentralization, which is provided in the Act, the Local Governance Act.
Are you aware that he's paid under Article 71 or not?
Oh, if he's a presidential staffer, then his name will be on the list.
On the list as what? As Article 71 office holder or not?
I haven't seen it.
Honorable nominee, what will be your role as a Minister of State at the Ministry of Local Government?
We seem to be repeating ourselves, and sometimes I don't even know what to add, because almost everybody has asked me this question.
Let me put it this way.
Yes.
Will your role be different as Minister of State at the Ministry of Local Government as against your previous role as a Deputy Minister?
If I'm fortunate enough to be approved by this House, the Minister and the President will sit down and decide on this matter.
Honorable, you are a Deputy Minister. You're brought before us as Minister of State. Are you going to perform the same role as a Deputy Minister?
Mr. Chairman, that's why I've said here that I've been upgraded.
Kindly answer that, yes or no. Are you going to perform the same role?
I thought I was playing it safe by saying that the Minister and the President would assign me in the role. But I've been...
Is it, are you expecting it to be the same rule as the deputy minister?
No.
That's what we were expecting from you.
Yes, and I've said it several times, Chairman.
Honorable nominee, you supervises a number of district assemblies. That's what you said, that you personally, as a deputy minister, you have a role of supervising some of the district assemblies. You have 4 something regions.
We've been assigned.
Assigned.
We've been assigned. And I said that I've been assigned to oversee 65 districts in 3 regions.
Are you aware that some of the district assemblies has as much as 13 deputy assistant coordinating directors? 13 assistant coordinating directors. Are you aware of that?
Well, probably we are veering into the work of the local government service. If it's true that some have 13, I would find out and then be more sure of what you're saying. But this is a local government service matter.
Honorable nominee, you said that you have been assigned a responsibility to oversee the district assemblies.
Yes.
And I'm asking you, are you aware that some of the district assemblies has as much as 13 assistant coordinating directors?
I'm not aware. I can find out from the head of local government service.
I am telling you today, as a nominee and as a deputy minister, that some of the assemblies in my region, they have 13 coordinating directors, deputy coordinating directors. In fact, if you go to Ewutu Senior West, Honorable Gisela Tete's constituency, they have 17 deputy assistant coordinating directors. 17. No, assistant coordinating directors. 17.
But I'm a bit confused. You said 13 assistant deputy coordinating directors. I don't know any position like that.
Honorable members, order. The person sitting there is sufficiently experienced to answer the questions. He doesn't need your help, please. Yes, candidate, are you aware that at the Wutu Senior there are 17?
I said no, I'm not aware.
Good. What was the other one?
If you go to my constituency, if you go to my district, we have 7 assistant coordinating directors and 8 internal auditors. And 8 internal auditors sharing one office. Some of them, they have to run on shift. On shift. Are you aware of that?
Well, I've answered it. And I said that I would have to find out from the head of local government service. There should be a reason why that is so.
Honorable nominee, I know you to be someone with loads of experience. If you are running your private business, and in times of a major economic crisis, will you overstaff a government establishment?
Some of these questions should be directly put to the head of local government service. He will tell you it's not overstaffed in the first place. Number 2, if he gets the clearance, the financial clearance to recruit persons who are Ghanaians, who are entitled to work and qualified, and he employs them. We are not, I think the government has not said that it's offloading any staff. But if they are properly employed, the head of local government service should have a reason why they've been employed. And I don't think that the issue of austerity means that we should start sacking employees because we think that we are in hard times. I don't think that is what the government wants to do.
Honorable nominee, what role did you play in the demarcation of the new regions? Did you play any role? as a Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Local Government?
That was then regional reorganization and development, and I was not part of the ministry.
Now that you said that it's part of your responsibility, have you calculated the fiscal cost? The fiscal cost of these new regions. Have you calculated the fiscal cost of these new regions?
No. What exactly do you mean by fiscal cost?
The fiscal cost is how much it's costing the nation.
I cannot see it as a cost, with all due respect. If you look at the Constitution...
Everything has a cost and a benefit.
If you look at the Constitution, even under directive principles of state policy, there should be even development, there should be balance, rural to district, there should, for region to region. If in the wisdom of the president, we need to create more regions for development to go to these regions, for democracy to be deepened, I don't think we sit here and count the cost. Because we are sending resources and facilities and functions and power to the center. And I don't think we should count the cost if a regional police command has been created and built for more security in any particular region.
Sorry, did you say you're not aware that a new regional police command has been...
Mr. Chairman, you're not listening. What I was saying was that he is saying it's a cost. And I'm saying that I don't think that creating a region and deepening democracy and then even setting up a regional command with a regional post should be seen only as a cost to the nation.
I thought, one moment, please. I thought, because actually, regional commands, new ones have been created. And Bekwa is now a regional police command. And the cost is being borne by us for now. No, not a new region. As a sub-region, or should I say, Ashanti region has been divided into 3 for the police administration, just like Tema Regional Command. No, but the cost is not going to the national government. We are providing the resources within the community are used. We are providing accommodation. We are providing office. We are providing... No, but what I said, the infrastructural cost, if you count that because it's been created, so it's being... No, already we are providing locally. Individuals, not central government, but so we shouldn't be counting.
But Mr. Chairman, it is for a reason why the Public Financial Management Act, Section 100, says that every proposal making its way to Parliament must come or must be accompanied by fiscal impact analysis so that we know the fiscal cost going forward. Because some of these costs will be recurring to the extent that there's the need for us to budget it into the future. But I raise that question. So, Chairman, in the ministers, deputy ministers, and honorable nominees' earlier answer, he said the government has reduced the size of government by removing Zongo Ministry, Special Development Initiative Ministry, Monitoring and Evaluation Ministry. My question is, are you aware that even though the minister responsible for the ministry has been collapsed, the same Ministry of Monitoring and Evaluation, the deputy minister is still at the office of the president under Monitoring and Evaluation Secretariat and being paid the same salary as a former deputy minister? Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of it.
I'm confirming to you that at the finance committee meeting, the same deputy minister was there. He's paid as Article 71, with 2 other people also paid as Article 71. So the notion, and the same deputy minister used to be the deputy minister of monitoring and evaluation. Okay. He's still at post at the office of the president and the monitoring and evaluation secretariat. So the idea that it has happened and they have reduced it is the same. Number 2, Special Development Initiative Secretariat. It used to be a ministry. It used to be a ministry. Again, there are 3 people after the ministry has been collapsed, has been appointed as the Special Development Initiative Secretariat under the Presidency, Office of the President. Office of the President. And they are also being paid under Article 71 office holders. So what has changed? Same as the Zongo Development Fund. Our colleague, the former MP for Offenso South, Honorable Abdallah Banda, is still at post. He is the coordinator for the Zongo Development Initiative Secretariat, also paid under Article 71. So the notion that this has reduced the size of government, I beg to differ with you, Honorable
Leader, Honorable Chairman, Leader, are we saying that if a secretariat is set up at the presidency and you have persons manning the secretariat, you can equate that to a whole ministry? Are we saying that? If we say that, that means that we may be stretching this whole issue, because a ministry, properly so-called, has a certain staff in place, administrative structure and everything. Otherwise, then the president would have said it's a ministry. I think that we should distinguish between the two.
Honorable nominee, if approved as a deputy, as a minister of state at the office of at the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, will you consider creating new constituencies?
Well, the whole world is listening to us. The whole world is listening to us. The ministry doesn't create constituencies. In the Constitution, it's an electoral commission which creates constituencies. And indeed, almost how many years of President Kufuor, it's only one district which has been created, which has necessitated the EC coming in to create a constituency. Otherwise, no district has been created which would have forced even the hands of EC to create a constituency. So it's the EC which creates constituencies.
Do you have a plan to create new districts?
As I sit here, it's the president who creates districts, and then the president who, if he should bring an executive instrument to the ministry after going through the whole process, then the ministry will bring a legislative instrument to Parliament. If you pass it, a district would have been created.
Will you recommend to the president to create new districts?
I report to my minister. So maybe this is a wrong question for me.
So will you advise your minister to create new districts and recommend same to the minister?
If my advice is sought, my advice will be sought given all the circumstances. At this stage, nobody has sought my advice on this matter.
Honorable nominee, do you know of a software called District Level Revenue Collection, DREV, that was done together with the German government, GIZ?
That's a DREV. Yes, I know DREV.
What do you know about DREV?
What do I know about DREV? As you said, GIZ had been involved in DREV, trying to assist the assemblies to be able to boost their revenue collection efforts. They were not operating in all the districts. They had various situations where others could even come on board. And as far as we are concerned, they did their part, they played their part in assisting the districts.
Are you aware that the Germans had pulled out from supporting government projects going forward because of the misunderstanding with government on DREV?
It is not true. I say it is not true because I was part of the delegation to Germany. And nowhere did the German government say that they are pulling out their support because of DRF.
What has the German government said to you? Suspension of future projects?
Not me. I was part of the delegation.
Said to the government?
I was part of the delegation led by the finance minister. Various agreements were signed. So it's not true that the Germans have pulled out. The DRF situation became protracted. The German government said they could leave that aspect because we were introducing a new regime as far as property rate collection is concerned. That is all.
Honorable nominee, to conclude, in the midst of what the country is going through vis-a-vis the economic crisis, that we are witnessing, don't you think that it will be appropriate if you reject the nomination the president has given to you and to save money for Mother Ghana?
Honorable Ranking, I mean, you know how the system works. I'm a member of parliament. I am remunerated because I'm a member of parliament. My being the ministry as a deputy, I have conditions of service. It's not my being elevated to the Minister of State that would significantly affect what is due me at this stage. And I think you know it. And I'm surprised that you say that I should reject the nomination because you think it will cost the nation more. I don't agree with you. In any case, what is going to change? I still stay in my own house. I'm still paid as MP. I get my slip as an MP. If I have to do work for the ministry, I'm given the opportunity to work. Take a vehicle, go here, do this. What is due me is due me. If I stay a deputy, it won't change. If I go to Minister of State, it won't change. If there are more responsibilities I have to carry out, I'll carry out those responsibilities.
Honorable nominee, I disagree with you that nothing will change. Because I asked a question, he has given me an answer back. Let me deal with it. I disagree with you that nothing will change. You are entitled to a salary as Minister of State, if approved. You may be taking MP salary today. However, when the time comes at the end of the term, they will work and pay you the difference. Again,
there may be no difference because there's 30% cut.
No, there may be difference. Number two, you may be staying in your own home, as most of us are staying in our own homes, but you're entitled to a percentage of your salary as your rent. And so something will change. So I disagree with you that something has changed. And
I'm here to know. I'm here to know, so we don't need to argue about
so if you say you don't know your condition of service, I would take it, I will accept it. But don't dabble into things you don't know.
But why are you also thinking that you can give me my conditions of service?
Honorable Amoah, I've told you not to argue and ask questions. You are no more. You're not a member of the committee now. You're appearing before us as very well. Honorable Amoah, do you remember who was the Deputy Minister for Monetary and Evaluation?
Honorable Osei, Sabi.
Right. Is Sabi anywhere working at the presidency?
I'm here to know. I don't know the role he's been assigned as at now.
Honorable Sabi, does anybody know about that? To the best of my knowledge.
Fair gentleman. Fair.
As what?
of what do you call it, monitoring evaluation secretariat.
That's a presidential appointment.
Okay. The money and evaluating secretariat is what you're referring to.
Yes.
Was there a monetary and evaluating secretariat previously?
No, how?
Tony Edu.
Very well. Honorable Amoah. Because you're seeking to bully us, I'll ask you a lot of questions.
He'll bully you too.
That's a charge by Ato, which I don't agree anyway. How could I bully Ato? A whole Ato. Powerful minority leader.
You see what he's doing.
A whole Ato.
Rather than waiting to be asked questions, he's now not only.
I've been asked to add doctor. Elizabeth said I should add doctor. Yes.
Very well. Honorable.
Not the medical doctor.
Honorable members, Honorable Amoah, your membership of the House, I entered Parliament with you. Yourself, Atacha, myself, and Napo, we used to sit at the same place and we shared ideas. We have served in different capacities in Parliament, and you have been a long-standing Deputy Minister. I have faith in you that you support your minister in performing the duties. So I don't ask you any further questions. Just remember,
Thank you so much.
as a Minister of State, you work under a minister.
I'm very much
If
aware.
you forget that, you get into a conflict with your minister, and that is what we want to avoid. But
Thank you so much.
otherwise,
Thank you so much. Fortunately, as I said,
we thank you for attending.
I've known him for so long, and we've done things together, and we will still do things together.
Thank you for attending upon the House to answer questions. Did you say Mrs. Amoah, your senior, was in the House? Let me take the opportunity to recognize Mrs. Amoah, okay, who is a senior to Honorable Amoah. We thank you for attending upon the House. You're discharged. You hear from us. Come back and sit here. Other members, it is the turn of Honorable Dr. Stephen Amoah. He's also a member of this committee. Honorable Dr. Amoah, kindly take the seat and let's proceed. Very well. I kindly administer the oath to Honorable Dr. Stephen Amoah.
I,
Stephen Amoah, answer by
swear by the Almighty
swear
God
by the Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give before this committee
that the evidence I shall give before this committee
touching the matter in issue
touching the matter in issue
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God. Honorable Dr. Stephen Amoah, on behalf of the committee, I congratulate you on your nomination as the Deputy Minister Designate for Trade and Industry. You're a member of Parliament. You're a member of this committee. However, it is important for the rest of the country to know who you are. So I invite you to tell us about yourself briefly before members ask you questions.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, my name is Stephen Amoah, a member of Parliament for the
Honorable nominee, Chairman is